Hi, this is Denise at Tripping the Bright Fantastic, and welcome to the story so far, part 1. And this is going to talk a little bit about how we got here. I'll try to give you the short version without too much extraneous details, although I do tend to ramble sometimes. So anyway, the story so far. I got hit in the tech layoff in January of 2023. I was working for a big tech company, you know, the ones that are named after a river in Brazil, and they sell all the products from A to Z. I think you know who I'm talking about here. I was with them for about 5.5 years, about 4 years in the position in which I was laid off from. They laid off my entire team, including both of our managers. So this was purely a cost-cutting thing. This was not, you're a bad employee and we're parting ways with you. This was the whole team. And there were over 24 of us. It was a bigger team. Anyway, so that was in January of 2023. And at the time, I was in clinical sleep deprivation because I had just been diagnosed a couple of weeks before I was laid off with sleep apnea. And so by the time I had gotten to see somebody and then gotten, you know, I was feeling the effects, and then I got an appointment, and then I was feeling the effects. I spoke to somebody in September. They referred me to a specialist. I called the specialist. The specialist couldn't see me until November. So I see them in November. They say, yes, it sounds like you have pretty significant sleep apnea. We got to do a sleep test for that. The first available for that one is January. So then I had taken the test in January, and they said, yes, you do. You have significant sleep apnea. We can get you a CPAP for that. First available is at the beginning of April. Yeah, so, January. This is like 2 weeks after I get the diagnosis of sleep apnea, and I'm doing my job half asleep because I don't have any other choices in the matter. Now, fortunately for me, it was a job that I'd done for 4 years. It was something that I could do half asleep. It was a data-heavy position. I don't like those, but that's what I had kind of fallen into. It's what I got paid to do. I was trying to move on into a different direction, and I was just kind of struggling to do that from where I was at. The organization that I was in was more data-heavy or computer programming, and I didn't really want to go in either one of those areas, so branching out was a little bit difficult. So when I got laid off, I'm still in clinical sleep deprivation, and I thought, I am not going to make any important decisions until I'm well rested. And I knew that it was going to be April before I got the CPAP, and I knew that they had said, you know, once you get that CPAP, it's going to be a few months before you really are rested again, because you've got a massive sleep debt that you've got to work through. So I'm tired and kind of just walking around my house, knowing that I'm going to get severance pay, knowing that they're going to pay me for a couple of months before I'm actually off of the payroll. Like, okay, I will make firm decisions when I'm capable of thinking straight. And I found myself kind of rambling out loud to nobody just because I was so freaking tired. I mean, you don't realize how important sleep is until you're not getting any sleep. And those of you who have insomnia, oh, babies, I'm so sorry. Truly. Yeah, that's just horrible. But I was, rambling, and I found myself saying, is this where you chuck everything and move to Europe? Is this where you chuck everything and move to Europe? When I was 18, I got to go to Europe with a school trip, and it was fantastic. We only spent about a week over there. We spent a little time in London and a little time in Paris, and I loved it. Some people travel to Europe and they just can't wait to get home. They don't like it, but I loved it. And I made a promise to myself at 18 that I would live abroad at some point, and I didn't care if it was a few months for a job or a few years for a job, or if I just emigrated. I wanted to go. So now I'm realizing, basically the rug's been pulled out from underneath me. What do I want to do? I'm an adult. For the first time in my life, I am an adult. I am divorced. My kids are grown. I can decide what I want to do, and I don't have to worry about anybody else really but me. So is this where you chuck everything and move to Europe? Maybe. And then one day I said, is this where you chuck everything and move to Ireland? And no one was more shocked than me, because I am not of Irish descent. So where in the world did Ireland come from? Well, I got to looking at it, and I thought, actually, that makes a whole lot of sense because it's the only English-speaking country in the EU now that Brexit has happened, the EU being the European Union. And if I were to go to Europe, I mean, they have freedom of movement in the European Union. So it's moving between the countries is more like moving between U.S. states. It's a little bit easier. So it's like, okay, I could do that, if I could get citizenship. And there might be a way I can get citizenship in a European Union nation. I'm not sure if it's a long shot or if it's a good case. I don't know. But in any case, that will take a lawyer and money, and I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. But I realized, that's actually a feasible thing to go to Europe. And I thought, okay, well, what do you want to do when you get there? Because I knew I needed to change. I did not want to go back to data. So I would have to pivot. And in looking at the critically needed skills in Ireland, it's a list the Irish government has put out. I'll put a link below in the video. I thought, do they need IT people? Well, they need IT project and program managers. And I thought, you know what? That's something I could do. So I went back to college and I got a certificate in project management. And at present, I am working on the application to take the PMP and get that certification. And then I can start applying for places. Now, eventually, that's the story so far. That's where we're at. Eventually, there'll be more to this, and there'll be having the PMP and looking at moving abroad and looking at citizenship. And I'll fill you in on all that when we get there. But for right now, this is where we're at. Talk to you later. See you out there.